Hey, I hope this video finds you in good health. I've been thinking a lot about the apology lately, and I think I might be a little closer to the truth this time. This would be a part two. Once again, this is the book I read. It was translated by Huge Tretnick and Harold Torrent. And this time we're going to look at the contradiction from a hierarchy of values perspective. Which is something I sort of got from Jordan Peterson. This idea of a hierarchy of values. And this time we're starting with the contradiction instead of ending there. So it's in page 56. Uh, 29E around. My very good friend, you are an Athenian and belong to a city which is the greatest and most famous in the world for its wisdom and strength. Are you not ashamed that you gave your attention to acquiring as much money as possible, and similarly with reputation and honor, and give no attention or thought to truth and understanding and the perfection of your soul? So, my interpretation of this passage is that you should be ashamed of yourself if you prioritize acquiring money, reputation, and honor over truth, understanding, and the perfection of your soul. He continues, if any of you disputes this, professes to care about these things, I shall not at once let him go or leave. No, I shall question him and examine him. Examine him, that's important. And put him to the test. And if it appears that in spite of his profession he has made no real progress towards goodness, I shall reprove him for neglecting what is of supreme importance and giving his attention to trivialities. So here what is of supreme importance would be truth, understanding, perfection of your soul, and the good, right? And the trivialities would be acquiring honor, acquiring money, acquiring reputation. He continues, and after a little bit of text, he says, I spend all my time going about trying to persuade you, young and old, to make your first and chief concern, not for your bodies or for your possessions, but for the highest welfare of your souls. So in this page, Socrates is saying that the highest welfare of your souls, which would constitute truth, understanding, and the perfection of your soul, that is what is of supreme importance. That is what should be at the top of your hierarchy of values. And where I see a contradiction is that right before that, he said in 28V, right before 28E, the truth of the matter is this, gentlemen, where a man has once taken up his stand, either because it seems best to him or in obedience to his orders, there I believe he is bound to remain and face the danger, taking no account of death or anything else before this honor. And to me, that's a problem, because that sounds exactly like what he's saying in the next page, that you should make your chief and primary concern acting honorably. So Socrates, on one hand, is saying, make your chief and primary concern the highest welfare of your souls. And on the other hand, he's saying, make your chief and primary concern acting honorably. 66, I think, is the next page. Actually, 64. Let's go to 64. Got a little plan this time. I set myself to do you individually in private what I hold to be the greatest possible service. I try to persuade each one of you not to think more of practical advantages than of his mental and moral well-being, or in general to think more of advantage than of well-being. This is 36C. And this one seems to support that you should make your chief and primary concern the highest welfare of your soul. Another one that supports that conclusion is on page 66, 38A. I tell you that to let no day pass without discussing goodness and all the other subjects about which you hear me talking and examining, both myself and others, is really the very best thing that a man can do, and that a life without this sort of examination is not worth living. So that then again, he's sort of claiming that the best thing, sort of the form of the good, as Plato would later put it, is to examine your life, is to search the highest welfare of your soul. So basically, by doing philosophy, you should prioritize truth and understanding and the perfection of your soul over anything else. 5934D. Here, in contrast, he's saying, this is when the 30 commanders ask him to execute a man unjustly. And he says, on this occasion, however, I again made it clear, not by my words, but by my actions, that the attention I paid to death was zero, if that is not too unrefined a claim, but that I gave all my attention. That's the crucial part right there. All my attention to avoiding, and that's interesting as well, because there's the next passage is going to support him acting rightly, but for the most part throughout the Apologies, not so much acting rightly as it is avoiding disgrace. It seems to be that not doing wrong is more important. It's more important than doing right. But once again, I gave all my attention to avoiding doing anything unjust or unholy. And that's redundant. It's a little funny, because in Euthyphro, he defines the holy as a division of the just. So if he's saying unjust, he's already saying unholy. But maybe the jurors didn't know that he defined it that way. And anyways, but keep in mind this idea of the holy being a division of the just. We're gonna revisit that a little later on. And I think there's one more passage that I'd like to say before moving on with my point. And here he is discussing or giving his reasoning as to why he did not participate in politics. He says, do you suppose that I should have lived right before 33A? Do you suppose that I should have lived as long as I have if I had moved in the sphere of public life and conducting myself in that sphere like an honorable man, had always upheld the cause of right, and conscientiously set this end above all other things? Always upheld the cause of right and conscientiously set this end above all other things. So which one is it? Is it honor is above all other things, or is it truth is above all other things? They can't both be at the top. You know, one is gonna be above the other one, unless they're the same thing. So that's my point. If honor and the highest welfare of your soul are the same thing, And Socrates would be saying, are you not ashamed that you are prioritizing honor over honor? And that makes no sense. But the alternative makes even less sense, because he's saying, are you not ashamed of prioritizing honor over truth and understanding? And then Socrates, and if truth and understanding and honor and those are separate things, if the highest welfare of your soul isn't honor, then Socrates is saying make your chief and primary concern A, and then he's saying make your chief and primary concern V. And the only way that would work is if you follow a different set of rules under different circumstances. But I don't think that's the case. I left a note for page 67. In a court, 39a, in a court of law, just as in warfare, neither I nor any other ought to use his wits to escape death by any means. And that to me suggests that you always follow the same set of rules. It doesn't matter if the circumstances change, you always follow the same set of rules. And so there you have it, folks. I think that's the contradiction I've been puzzling for unconsciously for 2 years, because that's when I first read the Apology, and then I sort of dropped reading it. I mean, I read the Apology, and I stopped reading philosophy until recently when I tried to read the Crito, and I got a little confused. So I was like, hey, I'm going to reread the Apology, and I fell onto this idea of a contradiction again, and I couldn't drop it. I really couldn't. I have to do some readings for school, and I can't make it through one page. I couldn't make it through one page without thinking of the Apology, and I know there's a contradiction there. I know I'm seeing something, but I can't point at it. And I think this is it. Yeah. Yeah, so if honor is the highest will for your soul, then you shouldn't prioritize honor over honor. That makes no sense. I'm reading my notes here, sorry. If honor isn't the highest welfare of your soul, then then to me honor, the way I would define it and the way I think Socrates would have defined it, would be like the holy. I think the honorable is the division of the just, which requires courage to carry out. And that brings me back to sort of Jordan Peterson's reasoning, where he asks, are you good if you can't be bad? So is acting justly worth much if there's no threat behind it? It's like, if you're acting justly and I don't know, if you're watering a plant, it's not honorable, sure, you're doing a good deed, but anybody could do it. So where's the honor in that? You're just doing it, and it's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but it's not it's not remarkable. Whereas the honorable would be staying in battle despite the imminent threat of death. It's acting rightly when you're terrified, and acting rightly in spite of your terror. And it appears to me that that's truly what Socrates places at the very top of his hierarchy of values, then truth. And I think somewhat lower down, but not too much lower down, there's reputation. And by this logic, there would be no contradiction with regards to reputation, because you should never set out to damage your reputation. You shouldn't bring ridicule upon your city. But if a bad reputation is the result of acting honorably, then you should prioritize acting honorably over preserving that reputation. It's a lot clearer if you think about it in terms of a hierarchy of values. And finally, I'd like to go back to my original question of, was this done on purpose? And I think it might have been, because on page 64 at 36C, a little higher than 36C, so 36V, he says, I have never lived an ordinary, quiet life. Well, we knew as much. I did not care for the things that most people care about: making money, having a comfortable home, high military or civil rank, and all the other activities, political appointments, secret societies, party organizations, which go on in our city. I thought that I was really too fair-minded to survive if I went in for this sort of thing. And there you have it, folks. I think that's the real list of trivialities. I think the original list of containing honor and reputation might have been an insult to Meletus. Well, the not-so-infallible Meletus realized that I'm contradicting myself for my own amusement. And, a little further down his speech, you can find what he truly believes are the trivialities. And I think there's a very important distinction between military or civil rank and honor. I think they are very separate things, and I strongly believe that Socrates made the difference between them, and that he, if he had wanted to make the real argument, would have used that. Because for a while I was thinking, okay, but maybe they don't have the vocabulary. Maybe honor is a word that had like 15 definitions, which some words like that still exist today, and it's something that I think we should try and fix somehow. We should expand our vocabulary. Like if you're reading a book and there's a word you don't know, and then you look it up and there's like 11 definitions. This has happened to me. I was pissed. And I think that's sort of where we could move forward with language, which would be the opposite of 1984 with Newspeak. But back to the point, sorry. Socrates could have said rank. And I think that's what should have gone in the place of honor, if he had wanted to say what was true. But I think he was just getting a kick out of it. I think he either made a mistake or he was contradicting himself for his own amusement. And then he says political appointments, secret societies, and that's the sort of thing you could get out of reputation. So maybe he was saying that you shouldn't, and I forgot to say this earlier, he would be saying like, you should want to study, but you shouldn't want good grades. You should want to study because studying is the right thing to do, not just to get a good grade and have people think you're smart. And then you could say, and then you could think, and I remember thinking this, so I was trying to make analogies for honor, like, hey, is acquiring honor the same thing as acting honorably? And then I was like, okay, but getting good grades isn't the same thing as studying. And I was like, oh my god, it's over. My whole argument just fell apart, and I was devastated. I realized It's not the same thing, and it's sort of a false analogy, because you can cheat to get good grades, and you can have the motivation of getting good grades, but not the motivation of studying. So I think a proper analogy would be knowledge and learning, where acquiring knowledge is the exact same thing as learning. And I don't think you can say you should want to learn but not acquire knowledge. I don't want to say wisdom, because you could be learning things that aren't true and then you wouldn't be wise. Or you could learn in theory but having no theoretical knowledge, but having only theoretical knowledge. You could be terrible in practice. Like, you need practical knowledge and experience. But I think if you stick to learning and acquiring knowledge as the equivalent, as a more understandable equivalent of acting honorably and acquiring honor, then it's a little easier to understand. And I think that's it. I'm a little bummed that it's over, even though it was kind of stressful thinking about it. I thought about it nonstop for so long. Yeah, I have written here, for reputation, it matters but shouldn't prioritize it over what is of supreme importance. I don't think I missed anything. And yeah, I believe there is a contradiction. I believe it might have been done on purpose. I hope you enjoyed this rant I had. I hope this motivates people to read more philosophy, even though I haven't really read much. If anything, it discouraged me from reading more. But I hope it has the opposite effect on the rest of people. And now that I feel like I'm done, now that I feel like I got over the problem I had with the apology, I think now I can move on. I'm probably gonna read the Crito soon. And I really hope that people learn more about philosophy, that we all think more and just try to appreciate things for what they really are, rather than having a glimpse at it, making up your mind, and sticking with that idea because it's the most comfortable thing to do, which is what I originally did. When I first read the apology, I was like, yeah, I contradicted himself. I'm not going to think twice about it. There's a contradiction, I know it. And then I just finished the book, and I was like, well, that's good. I thought I was happy with it. And I think now I am, honestly. I do feel sort of a rewarding feeling. I could be totally off about this. I could have misinterpreted something. I could have, I could be wrong. But I think I have finished. I think I have thought about it enough, and I'm happy with the conclusion. There's one more thing. I'm probably going to make a short video about it, but there is another mistake in the apology. I suggest you try to figure out what it is, because I think this is probably the worst mistake that Socrates makes in the apology. And it's not a straw man. I know I thought that was... I mentioned a straw man in the previous video. But it's not about the straw man. So this is it. I don't think the not so infallible Meletus noticed that Socrates was contradicting himself for his own amusement, and I don't think anyone else did. If anyone knows that this has been explored before, like, I would really appreciate it if anyone lets me know, because from what I gather, it seems that it went unnoticed, and I'd like to know if I'm right. Ultimately, I think this is all about a pursuit of truth, and I'm open to being wrong. I'm absolutely open to being wrong, and if there's something there, I'd like to be sure. But yeah, if anyone ended up watching this, I hope you have a great, wonderful night. Take care, guys.